everyone. Today I am making a protein-sparing modified fast version of egg drop soup with Shui Mai, or Chinese dumplings, and I think you're gonna like it. My name is Anita and this is my channel where I show you how I've lost 145 pounds following an animal-based ketogenic diet. Okay, today I'm going to make a version of eggs drop soup that I really like. But I think what I'm really showing you is how to make the little meatballs or dumplings, otherwise known as Shui Mai if you go for dim sum or order wonton soup or anything like that. I really like this version for carnivore. It's basically good for carnivore. Those of you who are keto can certainly add various things to this, but if you're carnivore and if you're doing protein-sparing modified fast, this is a very appropriate little meatball to make. The base is ground chicken. I've got 1 pound of ground chicken here. You can use lean ground pork. If you can find some super lean ground pork, that is even better. That is traditionally how these are made. Around here, it's the luck of the draw to get ground pork, and usually it's very fatty. And because I'm doing 2 protein-sparing days per week, I wanted to stick with the chicken, and it works quite well with chicken. You also need a ½ pound of raw shrimp, not the pink cooked shrimp. It's got to be raw. You want to start with raw. As for seasonings, I've made it with just salt before, and it still turns out beautifully. Today I'm making it with ½ a teaspoon salt, ½ a teaspoon garlic powder, and ½ a teaspoon onion powder, and a little bit of white pepper, ¼ teaspoon. And we need, the egg is for the soup part. And again, you can just make the meatballs and just eat them or use them in other dishes, but I'm going to actually make the soup. So the egg is for the egg drop soup. There's no egg in the little dumplings themselves. You need some sort of broth. I'm using my bone broth. This is, I make at least 1 batch a week of bone broth or meat stock. This is bone broth. It's very jiggly. I can't even remember what I cooked it from, but it's definitely beef. Chicken is fine. Any type is fine. You can use a store-bought one. Just check the ingredients. So whatever works for you. So I'm going to do the prep here, and then we're going to take the dumplings to the stove top there, and I'll show you how I cook them and then how I use them in the soup. Oh, one more important ingredient. This is a red boat fish sauce, and there are a lot of fish sauces on the market. This is what gives it that more authentic Asian flavor. And I like this one because for one thing, it's fermented. It has only 2 ingredients, anchovies and sea salt. So you can use this sauce in these little meatball dumplings, and still you're completely carnivore if that's what you're looking for. So highly recommend this. Let's get started with combining. Let's make the dumplings and then we'll do the soup. Okay, I'm going to put my ground chicken in the bowl here. The shrimp, you can either chop this up with a sharp knife by hand. You want to chop it into little tiny pieces. I'm going to cheat and use
whatever this is called.
This is a multi-purpose tool. It comes with all kinds of gadgets that all use this base thing. I just love it. So I'm going to put my shrimp in there to make quick work of this. These particular shrimp are raw Pacific wild-caught shrimp. You can use any type of shrimp. Just make sure they're raw. So we're not making mush. We're just getting it chopped up. So I'm just going to take a look and see what we've got here. Oh, there's a couple of big pieces in here still. It doesn't take much to chop these up. I'll just give it a couple more spins. Okay, that should do it. There's one shrimp in there that just didn't want to go. So there's our shrimp all chopped up and ready to incorporate. Going to add in my garlic and onion powder. And again, it works beautifully with just salt. So not a thing to worry about there if that's all you want to use. Now, ground chicken and ground shrimp are both very sticky. So I'm going to use a fork. I might have to get in there with my hands, and I do have some rubber gloves or plastic gloves, I guess. I don't really like to use those except as a last resort. So I'm going to do my best to stir this in. For those of you that are keto, you can chop up a little bit of onion and garlic to put in here. That is a nice addition. Oh, my red boat sauce might help me with the stirring. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon. I think that should do it. All right, I'm gonna need to get my hands in here. I'm just gonna wash my hands and moosh this up. I'm gonna put in the love. I should have had a paper towel ready. Just trying to get to the point where the ground chicken and the shrimp are one, or as close to that as possible. I think that's looking good. Quick wash of my hands again. Okay. These are not going in the oven, but I do like to lay out my dumplings before I cook them. I like to get them all on this sheet here. And I am using this little scoop. It's a trigger scoop. You can get these, at a cooking supply store or on Amazon. I like the trigger as opposed to some of the other ones. I don't know what they're called. And I might even be using the wrong name, but this is 2 tablespoons. This should make about 2 dozen little balls or dumplings. Okay, here we are. I'm just gonna count them real quick. There's 30 little dumplings. I will give you the macros for these at the end of this. I'm going to just dump my broth in here. And if you're just prepping, like if you're just meal prepping these and you're not actually going to make the eggs drop soup, you could just boil them in water. We're going to be boiling these. But because I'm kind of making the soup at the same time, I'm going to use my broth. There's our broth ready to go. I'm going to move over to the stove. Okay, so I've got my broth simmering. I just want to put it on medium high until it starts to come to a boil. In the meantime, I'm going to get my egg ready for the eggs drop soup part of this. Basically, just cracking an egg into a bowl. Now, the fat in this recipe is all going to come from the egg yolk. So basically, the dumplings themselves have almost no fat in them at all. You could make this soup using just egg whites if you're very strict protein sparing on a day or you run out of fat grams or something. Up to you. I usually am able to work in a whole egg, no problem. Okay, so that's ready for when we get to that part. It's just starting to boil now. So the idea is that I'm going to use a small spoon to lift each dumpling into the boiling water and then let them boil, simmer. Here, I'm just going to turn this down now because it's really going. Let them simmer for a few minutes. I'm going to test one, take it out and see how it looks inside. You want to make sure they're fully cooked and then lift them out with a slotted spoon. So I am going to start scooping these little dumplings into the boiling water. Oops, better turn that back up. I'm just lifting them up one at a time. Once they're in the water, they will stay together nicely. I've never had any of them disintegrate. So the other thing I want to mention is that depending on the size of your pot, you're probably not going to be cooking them all at once. I've got 14 in here right now, and I think that's about the maximum. So once these are cooked, I will transfer them into the bowl, and I'll cook the next batch, as many as I can get in there. And then at the end, I'll be obviously saving some. I usually eat 6 of these, 8 at the most in a sitting, sometimes even 4. It really depends. So this is great for meal prep. While these are cooking, I'm going to allow about 5 minutes here before I test one. While these are cooking, one thing that I've done before is I use these little 2 tablespoon silicone molds. You can either put them in here raw or cooked and freeze them, and then throw them in a Ziploc bag or something or a container in your freezer. So, and I actually have a whole bag full of these in my freezer right now. But I love these so much that I don't mind making lots, because I know that I will use them up. They even taste good, like leftover ones that you put in the fridge, even taste good cold. So quick protein bite. I mean, it's pretty much pure protein. We're talking chicken and shrimp. Perfect for protein sparing days. Perfect for carnivore if you don't add any of the extra spices or seasonings. So yeah, perfect for meal prep. Okay, so these have been simmering for a good 5 minutes, or probably more actually. I'm going to pull one out and just cut it and see where I think it is. You can tell if it's cooked inside or not. Yeah, fully cooked. Absolutely perfect. So I'm going to scoop the rest of these out, throw the other ones in there, and then we'll make the eggs drop soup. There's our first batch of dumplings. Okay, so I've taken out the rest of the dumplings. I've left 8 in this pot. That'll make 2, pretty hefty bowls of soup there. I'm going to put my egg in now. I could even put 2 eggs in here, to be honest, but since I've only got 1 in the bowl, we'll go with that. And so then, while this is still simmering, the meatballs or the dumplings are in here. Just gonna slowly whisk it in. Some people like their egg fully shredded and fine, and some like big lumps. So, you do you, whatever you like. Give that a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to serve the soup to myself for lunch. I'm going to take half of it and save half. So I'm going to do 4 dumplings and fill it up with some broth and egg, and turn it off. And let's go back over here. Okay, so this is finished now. It's still steaming hot. I'm going to garnish it with a little bit of green onion on top, like maybe a teaspoon or so. Optional, you don't need to do this. I just like to make it look pretty sometimes. So here we go. I am going to taste it, but it's still very, very hot. So what I want to share with you are the macros. So each of the dumplings, like 1 dumpling, is 36 calories, 5 1/4 grams of protein, 1.5 grams of fat, and 0.1 carbs. So perfect for protein sparing. The whole recipe, if I was to make if I had all the egg, I've kind of divided the egg in two, but if I had all the egg in here and 4 dumplings, it would be 252 calories, 36 grams of protein, 11 grams of fat, and 3 carbs, 3 total carbs. So, I usually just record the macros of my dumplings, and then I record separately everything else I do with them, because sometimes I just eat them on a plate. Sometimes I have it with egg drop soup, and sometimes I might have it with something completely different. So that's just for your information, for those that like to track. I'm going to, these are quite large, so I don't want to put a whole one in my mouth and burn my tongue. I'm going to just take a little chunk off. Okay, here we go. This is perfect for a rainy, cold day like what we have outside right now. I love it. It is so, it's so authentic. It really just reminds me of something I might have for dim sum, or something I might have, something I might have had in the olden days, going to one of those noodle houses that I love. So yeah, if you miss that kind of thing, I think this is something you would really enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.